Hello, everyone. Welcome to Off the Cuff, where the headlines come to life. And we have Amanda Saab in the house today. Amanda is our own homegrown girl from Dearborn Heights area, and she starred on MasterChef. And I'm sure you recognize her from this wonderful programming. And we are very, very proud of Amanda. And she is with us in the studio at WDHT Tv. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you so much.
This is really exciting. I'm in the presence of a celebrity.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Talk to us about your experience. First of all, MasterChef. That's sort of like something different, definitely out of the realm and uncharted territory. What was your inspiration?
Totally.
What made you think that you wanted to go compete on MasterChef?
So my husband and I were actually at home watching the previous season of MasterChef, and there was an open call for auditions. And my husband turned to me and he's like, "You can do that. You could totally win." I was like,
now when your husband tells you to go on MasterChef, you know you're doing something right.
yeah, I know he's not just being nice and saying, "Oh, my food is good." He actually believes it. And thinks I can compete on a national level. So we just went with it. I was like, yeah, why not? I have nothing to lose, everything to gain, and what a fun experience.
What was the process? What did you have to do to actually, did you have to fly somewhere? Where were they having the auditions?
Yeah, so we actually flew from Seattle to Los Angeles, and it was our wedding anniversary weekend. So we made a trip out of it, and we had to keep everything really confidential. So we were able to kind of cover up with our friends and family, we're going to LA for our anniversary, not this MasterChef audition. And it was many steps in the audition process. A lot of things we can't really talk about because that's behind the scenes and confidential. It was a 3-month process to actually get called back to go join the show.
Really? And how many people actually competed?
So to begin, the first episode, there was 40 of us.
Okay.
And we battled it out for aprons, and then 22 of us got an apron.
So they picked 40 people out of how many that actually went and tried out? Do you know?
There are some estimates online that say tens of thousands.
I can imagine, sure. So out of tens of thousands, they brought it down to 40 and then down to 22, and you were the 22. Yeah. How you were on the show for how long?
So I made it 8 episodes. I was number 13 out of the group of 22, which was really incredible. I was honored to be amongst my fellow contestants and other home chefs in America.
Absolutely. So. What was the biggest challenge for you in terms of being on the show and, the whole 9 yards and, given your background, given everything that, you've done, and obviously you're a phenomenal cook, so that challenge was minimal, but what were the major challenges for you?
I think my biggest challenge while I was at MasterChef was just being away from my family and my husband and not being able to talk to my mom and my sisters. Even though I live in Seattle, I talk to my mom and sisters every day. We FaceTime all the time, and that was the most challenging part for me.
So they don't allow you to speak to your families or to communicate or to see them on Facebook or anything like that, so it's you're sort of secluded.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. We're definitely secluded, and everything's really controlled. They want to make sure that nothing gets leaked, and really want to protect the confidentiality of the show until it airs.
I was watching the last episode where Claudia and Derek sort of faced off, and it was really touching. They had brought their families in, and they hadn't seen them for months on end. So that was surprising. I know these shows do this, but that was pretty surprising. So it's quite a sacrifice to be on these shows and not to be able to see. What did your husband do without your cooking?
He drove my sisters crazy.
I can imagine.
Once I got back, they were like, "Do not leave him alone again." He was texting them and calling them every day. But he did really well in regards to eating. He did a lot of meal planning, and I had frozen some stuff for him so he wouldn't be completely starving without my cooking.
So with the other contestants, what was your challenge? Did you feel like there was quite a bit of competition? Did you feel like you had to be, I'm sure you did, creative, to try different things that maybe you didn't try at home?
Totally, yeah. I think my mindset going in was just to have fun, be as creative as I can, and really just focus on the food and having fun with it. And for me, that's when I work best. That's when I'm most creative, when I'm relaxed and just able to do whatever I like, which is kind of hard to do in a competition where you have Gordon Ramsay breathing down your neck.
Sure. So is he as tough
Oh, yes.
Behind the scenes, too, is he really?
I think he means really well, and he wants to encourage people to do their best and really push themselves, and he does that in an unconventional manner.
That's a very polite way of putting it. Very polite way of putting it. So you had to make a cake.
I did.
And they really didn't tell you what the cake was going to have to be. So tell us about that experience. I have a little bit of I remember, watching that little script. But tell us about that and what went through your mind.
Yeah, so our team had lost the team challenge. It was the 100th episode of MasterChef, so this huge celebration, and our team just crumbled under the pressure. And our pressure test challenge had to be a birthday cake, and it just so happened that it was my birthday. It was February 5th, my 26th birthday, and I woke up that morning and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the first time in my life that I'm away from my family and my friends, and I have to make a birthday cake now. Like, this is crazy. I mean, the irony of life is impeccable.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you got to make yourself a birthday cake, but the twist is?
The twist is I was trying to do way too much in such a limited amount of time, and I took my cakes out early, and it just completely crumbled under the pressure, I guess.
Oh. You had to also do a crab cake.
I did.
So did you know about that, or were you surprised when you just sort of looked at the ingredients? Tell us about that. I mean, what's the process? How do they tell you what you have to make?
Right.
What do they expect of you? And is it sort of on the spur of the moment, or do you have some, do they give you a heads up?
So there's absolutely no heads up. So the crab challenge was a mystery box challenge, and I heard something crawling under the box. And I was like, oh no, it's alive. Like, whatever it is, I'm gonna have to butcher something today, and I usually don't do that stuff. And then we lifted the box, and all the crabs start scurrying around the counter, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I've never killed a live crab myself. I usually have my husband do it, or we usually just buy them already killed and frozen. So I had to butcher the crab. I was really lucky because Nick and Jesse, the two other contestants, were in front of me, and Jesse is from New Orleans, and he does
does that all the time?
Live seafood all the time. So I was like, Jesse, what do I do? He's like, just put it in the water. And I was like, that's it, really? All right. So that's what I did, and I made my crab cakes, and the judges really loved it, and they were really impressed with the amount of meat I was able to get out of the crab. And having lived in Seattle now for a few years, I'm really familiar with the Dungeness crab, and I knew that would be a perfect way to make the crab cake.
So you said you made that on the show. What did you use? What kind of ingredients did you use? You said mango, and see, I would never think about mixing crab and mango and things like that, but how did that work out?
Yeah, so I used the Dungeness crab, which is a large sweet crab from the Pacific Northwest, which is so delicious. And
see, I'm not a crab eater, so this is all new to me.
We learn something from each other all the time.
Absolutely.
So I knew the mango would complement the sweet crab really well, and then I added some jalapeno to that salsa, and then I had a really smooth, rich avocado cream sauce to help counter the sweetness and the heat from the jalapeno.
So did you come up with that recipe, or was that something that was already planned for you guys to make?
Oh no, I came up with that on the spot. So my first objective was get the crab cooked, get all the meat out, and then figure out what I can do with that.
Wow. Okay. See, I'm not a cook, so this is all very, very intriguing to me, and I want to learn how to make these wonderful dishes. But I don't know if it's too late for me. So I'm just gonna have you teach me all this stuff. This is amazing.
Love to. And it's never too late to learn. And I share
that's what my husband tells me all the time. It's never too late to learn. What's your favorite food? What do you like to cook the most?
Oh, well, if I'm cooking or baking, I love to bake cheesecakes. But my absolute favorite food is actually raw meat, so there's no cooking involved.
The kibineye.
Kibineye, so good.
You were making the kefta on on the show.
I did.
And that is the lamb, and what does that entail?
Yeah, so I actually used my grandma's recipe. I just grew up learning how to cook from my mom and grandma. So my grandma taught me her kefta recipe, and it's the ground lamb, onions, parsley, mint, garlic. You can add pine nuts, and lots of spices: cumin, garlic, onion, coriander. I mean, just
everything all
you can't
together.
go wrong.
Oh, wow. And how did that come off on the show?
It was great.
Was it a hit?
Yes.
Did you cook any other Middle Eastern foods on the show other than the kefta?
I did.
Did you make the kibinayet?
No, I didn't have the opportunity to do that on the show.
Well, they should have given you that opportunity. It would have been an experience for everyone.
Thank you. I agree. I did make a turmeric cake, not like a svov, but an actual cake, and I made like a date filling and a goat cheese icing, so playing on Mediterranean, Middle Eastern flavors and putting my own twist on it. So
it's just always intriguing for me for someone to actually cook and plan, but to do it on the fly, that's another whole thing. But I'm impressed and I'm amazed.
Thank you.
You, as a Muslim American, of course, being on the show, what was your thought? How were you received by the others? And was it even an issue? Was it acceptable? Was it something that was natural and normal, or did you find some challenges?
So going in, I didn't even think like, oh, I'm a Muslim woman wearing hijab.
Sure.
It's a huge part of my identity, but when I go forth in anything I do in life, I'm not really thinking about what others are thinking or how I'm going to be received. I'm just being me and doing what I love to do and having fun doing it. So it was very natural. I mean, there were times that I was a little bit nervous just because of ingredients and different things, but I was received really well by the other contestants. If anything, they were just curious and wanted to be respectful and learn more, so that if there were any cultural or religious norms that they needed to be aware of, that they wouldn't be offending me in any way. So everyone was so kind and accepting.
What about it publicly?
Yeah.
What was the acceptance publicly?
Oh, publicly, I think most people were super excited about it. I think it was overwhelmingly positive. I mean, in this day and age, there are, the internet trolls that like to throw in their comments here and there, but overwhelmingly positive, and I choose not to focus on the few people who have a really hard time accepting a lot of things in life, because I'm not going to change their mind, and I'm not worried about what they're thinking. But everything has been so positive, and it's so wonderful to see that everyone is excited about what I'm doing.
Well, on the show, I know you were known as the one with the beautiful smile and the wonderful personality, and so that's the whole picture. And I think you represented yourself very well as a cook, as a human being, and a very kind person.
Thank you.
Where do you go from here? Are you thinking about restaurants? Are you thinking about that culinary career, or is your husband the one who's going to really take advantage of your culinary talents?
Well, I'm really lucky that he's business-minded.
Really lucky.
Thank you. We're both equally lucky.
Absolutely.
He's really business-minded, and he already has our business plans done, and we're hoping in the near future to roll out with a restaurant and a startup that we're working on. So
are you thinking of Seattle, or are you thinking of our area here?
Our hope is to move back to Michigan. That's where our family is. That's where we're born and raised, all our friends. That's where our hearts are. Home is where your heart is, and our heart is in Michigan. So we want to come back and be around the people we love and share our food with our community and our friends and neighbors.
So what kind of restaurant are you thinking of opening? Would it be a Middle Eastern restaurant, something mixed, seafood? What is your love of cooking?
Yeah, so definitely fusion. So Mediterranean American fusion, so using traditional Mediterranean flavors that I grew up with and having a modernist twist. So I'm really into learning more about molecular gastronomy right now, which is like using chemicals to change the textures of food.
Okay.
And there isn't really anything like that right now in the area, doing it with Mediterranean flavors, and that's really what I want to do. And I would definitely have a social component to it, whereas we would give to the poor and needy in our community. So for every meal served in my restaurant, one would be given to someone in need.
That's a wonderful concept. Absolutely wonderful. You're a social worker as well. Do you do anything with social work in Seattle, or have you continued that part of your life as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm working full-time in a hospital in Seattle, and I work with women and children that are in the hospital. So addressing a whole array of needs and social concerns that they have, and helping them. And that helps me stay grounded, I think, and really recognize what's going on, what's the need in the community, what are people faced with, and how can we help make a difference with that.
You know, thinking of the hospital, we're looking at everything that's in our food, the GMOs and you know, just the ingredients that are the aspartame, everything that's being placed in our food.
Right.
What is your thought on that, and are you careful in terms of what your ingredients are and what you use in your culinary experience?
Absolutely. I'm definitely conscious of everything that we put into our bodies, especially when I'm feeding my family.
Sure.
And myself. You know, you want good things that go into your body. You only have one body, and that's where you live for all your life. So definitely try to do organic as much as possible. I love to shop at the farmer's market because it's local and it's sustainable, and you're eating seasonally, so you're not getting imports from across the world. And you know, that has an effect on the environment as well, with the pollution and the emissions, the carbon emissions that require bringing food across the world. So definitely try to eat organic and local as much as possible. That can be expensive, but you know, people go pay $20 to go see a movie. You can pay a few extra bucks to get an organic head of lettuce or whatever.
So what would be your typical healthy, delicious, scrumptious meal?
Okay, so my husband's really health conscious, and we do like a lot of protein and veg. So a chicken breast, I mean, you can do so many different flavor combinations. You can take that very simple chicken breast and take it all around the world with just the seasonings and the sauces that you make with it. And then whatever vegetables in season right now, we have like gourds and squash and onions, potatoes, that sort of thing. So probably like a hash alongside the chicken breast, and just a beautiful sauce. And yeah.
So there was a recipe you had on there, almond chicken.
Yes.
Tell me. I looked at that and I thought, okay, that looks really good. No clue how to make it. So how long would something like that take?
The almond chicken would take about 35 minutes. It's a process because you're breading several times. So you're, you know, dipping in flour and then the egg wash and then the breadcrumbs and the almonds, and then you're frying it. 35 minutes. So still manageable on a work night, I think.
Well, that's the thing. You know, so many people are working. A lot of women are working, men are working, and it's very, very hard to come home and have a balanced meal. I mean, you know, sometimes it's takeout on the way home. So how do you do that? What kind of foods could you suggest to make for someone that comes home and has maybe 20 minutes to put something together? What kind of foods would you recommend that they? And you know that question is for me.
I love it. Take advantage.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Talk to me.
So I would prep on a Sunday. So like on your weekend, I know most people want to relax and hang out, see family. Sunday night, make a big pot of grains. Make a pot of brown rice or quinoa. So then you can just add the accompaniments during the week. Then you can add your protein, your chicken or your beef or your fish, and a vegetable. So that's your balanced meal. You always want to have a carb, a protein, and a veg. And you can cook any protein pretty much as long as it's cut small, you're not doing a whole roast, in a few minutes. It's really quick. And I have lots of recipes on my website, amandasplate.com. And a lot of them are really easy, just work night. And it's what I cook on a work night. I get home from work at 5 o'clock and I'm like, oh my God, what am I making today? Just grill something, saute something really quick, have a starch and a veg, and dinner's on the table.
Amazing. I've seen a recipe on your website for the carrots.
Yes.
And there's a new way of actually
fixing
the carrots. Tell us about that. It's got to be it's a sponge, right? It's got to be a clean one, but I've never ever. Does it work? Tell us about that.
It works amazingly. So actually, while I was on MasterChef, I learned this trick from Steven, who's an urban gardener in Palm Springs, California. So if anyone knows their veg, it's Steven, because he grows them himself in his backyard. That's incredible. And we were preparing the carrots for 100 people, so we had a lot of carrots to clean. And I just got the potato peeler, or the vegetable peeler out and started peeling.
You had over 50 carrots to peel, or something each.
Yeah. So Steven was like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Use a sponge. So he just opened up a brand new sponge, and the rough side of the sponge just takes the outside of the carrot, the nasty part that you peel off, right off. And it's so much quicker. So much easier. I was like,
and the shape of the carrot remains the same too, so you don't have all these different, so the presentation is a lot nicer.
Exactly. You keep the integrity of the carrot in its shape and its natural form, and it's just so beautiful and easy. And I'm like, why did I learn about this sooner?
I know, that's amazing. Yeah, and it's a real time saver too. So the carrot recipe, I know it went up in flames, right?
Yeah.
It's something that I would do. The first thing my kids do when they come home and say, so Mom, is dinner on the table or did you burn it again? Literally, and my son especially. So it went up in flames. So I was sort of happy. I'm going, yes, you know, these MasterChefs are actually burning too. They're taking after me. But tell us about that recipe, because it looked really good, and it was with carrots, and it looked almost simple to make, was it?
Totally simple. So the carrots that we made on the show, we just had so many components and so many elements to our dish that we were working on, and one of our team members just completely forgot about the carrots, and they burned, and Gordon was like, what are you guys doing? We have this celebration, like, you guys need to pay more attention. I was like, oh goodness. So I went home and I made the carrots, and they were perfect.
So how did you make them? Tell us about that recipe, because it looked good, but I didn't see a recipe. So it's just carrots, and they all had different colors, so that's why I was interested.
The beautiful heirloom carrots, I picked them up from the local farmers market, and I did post the recipe so you guys can all make it. And I have like honey and garlic, just minced garlic, and rosemary, salt, pepper. It's so delicious. You can't go wrong.
So you have to cook you spice them up, and then you put them in the oven. And it's garlic and mint and the usage of the sweet and sour.
I love it.
That's an interesting kind of combination to sort of test your palate. So what kind of combinations have you found that have been the most interesting in terms of sweet and sour?
Oh, I love like playing with my flavors. Even in my desserts, I like having some salty components or just having subtle sweet desserts. Even in my cakes, I don't always add a lot of sugar. Just 'cause I always like kind of reduce it, just so it's subtle and you're not like on
healthier.
And you're not like on a sugar high after having dessert. So my favorite, that's a good question. I'd have to think about that. Sweet and sour, I don't know. What's
your favorite Lebanese food or Middle Eastern food to make?
My favorite,
other than the kibinaye.
I love doing the kefta. It just takes me back to my childhood. It's so nostalgic for me. I love doing grape leaves, and it's always a process, and that's why I enjoy it, because it's so tedious, and
you enjoy it because it's tedious?
Well, I only do it every few months, and then you get like big reward. You know, it's like
everybody loves it.
So delicious, and it's fun. I mean, you're just like rolling and...
Well, it's good to have your sisters around when you do that. That's
totally
a good project. And I know you brought your sister today, so she's in our audience, Mona.
Yes.
So I want to welcome her. But
Thank you.
When you were younger, did your mom cook a lot?
She did. Every day my mom would cook. Even working full-time, she would come home and cook for us. And on the weekends especially, it was like her baking days, and family would call and, hey, can you make me your banana bread? Sure, she'd make 10 loaves of banana bread.
So is that where you got your inspiration from?
Totally.
From Mom?
Yep.
So were you standing there next in the kitchen with her and just learning and trying to figure out what she was doing?
Exactly. And even my grandma, I mean, to this day, she's cooking for our entire family. It's 60 people every Saturday at Tata's house, and it's so wonderful. And she still teaches even my little cousins who are like 5 and 6 now, and it's so great to be around family and food. And
okay, let me ask you this question. I know when my mom used to cook, she used to put a dab of this and a little bit of this, and I asked her what the recipe, and she goes, I don't know, it's just a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and it's like I had no clue what to do. So was that what you went through, or was your mom pretty much an on recipe kind of thing?
It depends. So for the savory thing, she was definitely a dash of this and dash of that, and just taste and adjust as she went along. But for baking, she was pretty precise, and she wrote things down, which was great. My grandma, on the other hand, doesn't even measure for baking. I wanted her date cookie recipe, and she's like, okay, you just like pour a little bit of this. I'm like, how much? Like, baking is really precise because it's chemistry.
Right.
You got to get your measurements correct. And she's like, you just go by feel. And I'm like, I would love to be able to get to that point someday in my life where I don't have to measure for baking.
Well, you know, the longest time when I'd make rice for some reason, I had it in my head to every 1 cup of rice, you use 3 cups of water.
Oh no.
Yeah, right. My rice would never turn out. So I finally found out it's 1 cup of rice to 2 cups of water.
Right.
But it took me a while to find out because I'd watch my mom, and she just put the rice in, and then she'd put the water in, and she'd have perfect rice every time. But it never worked out for me. So the recipes were not part of our household, but the food was amazing. I mean, she just made, the grape leaves and the stuffed squash and the kibinai and the kefta and, all those wonderful meals. Are you a seafood person as well? I mean, do you do the crabs and the salmon and the shrimp and everything else?
I do, and I didn't realize what good seafood was until we moved to Seattle,
right?
Because we're right at the port there, and all the fresh catch comes in every day at Pike's Place Market, and we just go pick out a beautiful salmon fillet, and it literally melts in your mouth. It's so amazing.
All right, so your favorite thing to cook is
cheesecake.
Cheesecake. Okay. What about actual food?
Kefta.
Kefta and cheesecake. So
Yeah.
if we come over, Bob and I and Mona too. So you're gonna make us thank you kefta and cheesecake, and the pumpkin cheesecake was one of your delights on the show too.
Yeah, that was on. Actually, I just made that for Thanksgiving.
You did.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were actually you made it to the 8th season. Or to the 8th show, and you were number 13 out of 40.
Yep.
So that's amazing.
Thank
so we're
you.
very, very, very proud of you.
Thank you so much.
And having this kind of talent is amazing. So we're going to look for a restaurant here, and possibly in Washington, and maybe a chain, right?
Yeah.
Amanda's Cuisine.
Thank you. Thank you
Amanda,
so much.
Thank you so much for being with us on Off the Cuff. And thanks for the lessons. And we're gonna talk after this because I got to write some stuff down.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you for being with us on Off the Cuff. Happy cooking.